How do you know you have a good concept for a movie?
I asked my manager. I don't know. I think I do have to kind of bounce that idea off of people. Like, I always think I have a great concept, but from what I've learned is I have to let that settle a little bit and then really kind of just keep thinking about that idea. And now I have a manager, so he will tell me if he's seen like 1,000 of these ideas already or not. But yeah.
So, do you think that you also have to know for yourself, though? I mean, what if your manager says, "Oh, this is great," but you don't feel committed to the work?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, you have to believe in it, right? But for me, I always believe in my concept. So my problem is more like I always believe in it, so I need somebody else to tell me if it's actually not that great. And not everything my manager would say I agree with. So, and there are some, well, one film that I want to do where I know it's a great story and concept. So that's the one I'm going to do, not as a live action.
Oh, with Unreal Engine,
Yeah.
you're gonna do it with like using real people in real time. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. Do writers come up with ideas, or are ideas just revealed to them?
I think the ideas are revealed because, and that goes into like creativity, right? Like, where does imagination come from? And I don't think, it would be very egotistical to say that, oh, I'm the one that comes up with an idea. Because if you think about thought, like thoughts just pop into your head, and sometimes just random thoughts would come from out of nowhere. So it's like, where do those thoughts come from? It's coming from the same source where, your imagination, your creativity will come from. So it's really just about you like capturing that and being open to it when it arrives.
Yeah, I think there's a book, Thoughts Are Things. And so, yeah, just that it's thoughts are energy, of course, and
Yeah.
that we could be, when we pick up things that are in the zeitgeist or whatever, it's this energy that we're tapping into.
Yeah.
Why do you have a hard time coming up with ideas?
So I think I don't have a hard time coming up with ideas because I get a bunch of ideas all the time, but it's really about me choosing the right idea that I'm interested in. And a lot of times I just have to, let it marinate a little bit until it's the ideas that I keep going back to. Those are the ones that ultimately I'll write a script for.
Do you think in some ways you might be stopping yourself from coming up with ideas, or maybe too critical, judging them too much?
I think I think a lot of times I come up with an idea that is really just there's not enough substance to it. It's just like a gimmick idea. Like, oh, what if, one day you wake up and the world is upside down? It's like, okay, then what? Like, what is your actual story? Like, who's your character? Because there has to be more than just like the concept. And a lot of times I get stuck on that, which is like, I have like maybe a gimmicky kind of idea or interesting idea, but it's like, what is the actual story? So that's usually where I get stuck. Like, I need that story to fit into that idea.
So it's one thing to have like a cool movie idea. We talked about one that I had off camera, but it's another to actually flesh it out and spend time on it.
Yeah. Like, what is the actual story? Like, what is it really about? The character and the journey of this character. So a lot of times, like, that takes a lot of time to really bring out. And for me, it takes like multiple rewrites before I actually see what the story is about.
Oh, so you may not even have an idea of the ending or the whole character arc until you actually start the writing process?
I mean, I might have kind of an idea of what the ending's gonna be like, but sometimes I have to just start writing and then more of it will come to me. Like, in the middle of typing, as I'm typing a scene out, it'll start going in a different direction. And then I'll just, okay, I'll go in that direction. And then, later when I look back on that scene, I'm like, oh, wow, this is like what the movie's about. Like, it kind of just came out, you know, as I was typing it.
How do you know an idea is yours? That you were the one to bring it to life?
I don't think I'm the one to. I don't think any ideas are mine. I think they come from this other realm, this other place, and I'm just the one that's like interpreting that idea and bringing it out, expressing it. And that's why, you know, a lot of times they say there's no original idea anymore. Like every story has been told already, but it's like how you tell that same story. Because everything really comes from just like a human nature aspect. But we retell it in the context of like a modern society, or retell it in the context of a science fiction world. So, yeah.
If an idea comes too easy, do you trust it?
Yeah, I think, you know, I think if it's a good idea, it doesn't matter how this idea comes, because if it pops in your head and you'll know it when it's like, oh wow, there's something to this, you know, like it speaks to you. But it doesn't matter how it came about, you know. And a lot of times for me, I have to put myself in an environment where the ideas can come. So for me, it's like as I'm writing, ideas will come to me. So that's like a meditative state as I'm writing. Or I go for a walk, or if I travel somewhere, or if I, you know, go to a park and just sit there, surfing, like, you know, just gotta find a place where your thoughts can move freely and you're able to really be in tune with that.
Do you think there's a correlation between sort of like navigating waves and thoughts and writing? Is there like a
I mean, I've always thought of surfing as a great analogy for life. So I think there's something to what you just said. Because the waves will keep coming, right? But you kind of have to be ready, first of all, for the wave. And second of all, you have to pick the right wave. Like if you try to paddle for every wave, you'll, you know, just eat it maybe on a few of them. But you got to pick the right wave, the right shape, and you have to be in the right position to get that wave. And then you'll ride like a really nice wave.
Because you said that some of these ideas were just gimmicks. So is that almost like you're also picking the wave? You're trying to decide what's a gimmick and what's actually a good.
Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
Right. If the idea's too glassy, you can't. I don't know. I don't know the surfing metaphor. Okay. But is that something that you really is that something you did a lot when you were in San Diego? You were surfing?
In San Diego, but also out here. Yeah. I live pretty close to the beach, so I can surf. I'm like 10 minutes from the beach.
Is there a difference in the San Diego surf community versus LA?
Yeah, I think LA, they're a little bit more aggressive.
Oh, really? In terms of like getting their little spot in the water?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. San Diego's more like, hey, man.
Yeah.
It's all good.
It's more
Okay,
chill.
yeah. I think that's sort of a metaphor for the area, too. It's,
Yeah.
you know, but do you prefer being around an energy where you kind of have to fight for your spot, or do you like to be more in a harmonious?
I tend to stay away from the other surfers. I mean, I really don't care if the waves are good in one spot. I'll be where those waves are. But generally, like, and I think for most surfers, you kind of want to have your space. Yeah.
Right. Most people probably don't go into the water just to, you know, be social. It's more about finding something in them, some kind of inner thing. But
Right.
do you see that same analogy in the film world? Because, you know, there's a lot of judgment on, oh, well, this film and these credentials from this festival. Do you think you take that same, like, I just want to find my little spot in the film world and just make my movies?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't like going out to the film events and, you know, doing that whole thing. And I do think there is a lot of like judgment and this idea of like, oh, they got an award and this film didn't get an award. Like, you know, with the Oscars and all that. So for me now, I just want to focus on, why I initially got into filmmaking, which is like to be creative, to tell stories. And that's the part that I like. I don't like the aspect of like outside validation and having festivals or like critics approve your film as like a good film or not. You can put it out to the audience and the audience can tell you if like they like it or not.
I guess that goes back to the original question when we first asked you, when we first started rolling, which was, why do you stop, or why did you stop chasing success? Which sort of ties into that, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, festivals are great for watching other films. Sorry.
Yeah, I love festivals, but you gotta recognize them for what they are, which is it's just a celebration of films. It's not like a place where you get validated, although it's become that in the industry for sure, especially with places like Sundance or Cannes. But yeah, you kind of have to. I mean, at least for me, maybe some other filmmakers are really gunning for that, but for me, like I'm just really focused on creating something that is interesting for me, and something that I think a specific audience might like.
That's fascinating about the surfing, the nature of the mindset in one area versus another.
Yeah, there's a lot of analogy with surfing and life.
Have you ever been told to, like, you're in my little area? I'm trying to catch this wave, or I'm trying to do
No,
this.
most times people will just, if you drop in on someone when they're surfing, or they'll drop in on you, like that's usually when there's some conflict that happens. But I've definitely had some, run-ins with surfers, but I think after a few experiences like that, it's like, hey, I'm just trying to go out and surf. I don't want to go out, surf, and then come back feeling like I just had an argument with someone.
Sure.
Because then both people don't feel great for the rest of the day. I'll rather just like ignore you. If you drop in, I'll be like, okay, I'll just paddle away. I don't care,
What does that mean, to drop in?
Like if somebody's on the wave already and then you paddle for the wave and kind of like drop in front of them, like cut them off.
Ah, okay.
It's a drop in.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. How common is it for you to work on a movie idea only to abandon it months later? You said sometimes you get it out of your system when you write a script.
Yeah, I've definitely done that a lot, I would say. I've had a few scripts where I wrote maybe a draft or two and then kind of just left it. Yeah, I would say a lot of projects kind of go through a few drafts and then get left aside. So yeah, but that's kind of like my process. Like I have to write that story for me to realize, oh, this is like wasn't really it, And for me, like it's the process of discovery. Like what was I interested in with that story? Once I write it, then maybe there wasn't something that was that interesting anymore. So I go to the next thing.
How long does it take you to write the first draft?
It could be like, well, because it takes some time for me to get to that first draft. Like I first have to like write a treatment or an outline. And that process would take a while. It could take like 2 months maybe. But to write the actual draft, once I have my outline, it could just be like maybe a couple weeks.
So it's worth it to you to spend that much time and decide, okay, I've gone through a couple drafts. I'm actually not sure about this story. It's okay.
Yeah. For me, I like the process of writing. So, I don't mind doing that. And I am getting better as a writer when I do that. It's like practicing, right? It's like you're going to the gym. So, why do people, I don't go to the gym. I hate going to the gym. But it's kind of like that idea. You're just exercising your muscles so that you can write the next script that will be, a great script that you're really passionate about.